I'm here.
All right. So, you enlist Garn to go try and bond through their dwarven shared ancestry kinship with
Yep,
Hugh hacking stone.
I'll go up to him and go, "Hey, we need to talk to you. I'll buy you ale. Is that what you're drinking? I'll buy
Very
you an
traditional
ale.
dwarven greeting.
Yep, and so here I'll give you guys this. Where did that go? Oh, here we go. And Hugh turns to you, Garn, and he says, "Oh, good to see a fellow dwarf in these here strange lands. It's been some time.
You look like hell."
He, so you get the impression like if somebody who wasn't a dwarf would have said that to him, he might have taken offense to it. But he just kind of chuckles lightly to you, and he says, this place hasn't been kind to me, but don't really have anywhere else to go at this point."
I gotcha. Well, come on over here. I got some people who want to talk to you.
Yeah, and he'll follow you back over to the table with the rest of you.
Gentlemen, this is Hugh Hackenstein.
Hi, Hugh.
Pleasure to meet you, fellas. I do hope that you're a bit more cordial than some of the newcomers in this town. And he kind of glares over towards Faysaria and her party.
I can melt the Ice Queen.
What is it that old Hugh can do for you? You looking for a guide?
We are looking for a guide, and we overheard you speaking with Fesara. And we were just curious whether you would be the right fit for our expedition. Did she tell you what they were looking for?
Aye, the soulmonger that people are talking about here in town. I've been hearing whispers of it.
Frame of reference for where it might be?
Well, if I knew where the soulmonger was, I guess, nobody would be all up in arms about this curse anymore, and they'd all just go rushing for it. Nobody's found it yet.
I suppose that's a very good point. Do have a map that has come into our possession. I would just like to gauge your knowledgeability.
Aye, I'm all ears.
And so Ayan rummages around in his pack, and he's got a cartographer's kit, so he's probably got tools that you could use to sort of sketch out a rough map.
Sure.
And he puts that in front of Hugh, and he holds open the map that Syndra has given him, but in such a way that Hugh can't really take a look at it.
Uh-huh.
And he says, "If you would, just draw the three major rivers that run to the south of here."
Yeah, so actually what he does is he stands back up and he walks over to his satchel that's hanging on the back of his chair that he was sitting on, and he opens up a pouch near the back and he pulls out a little case, and he brings it back over to the table and he unfurls a little map, and he has several of the spots marked that the map that was given to you has marked on by Syndra. He points to his map and he says, "There's no need for any of this secrecy. I'll share with you what I have." And he just kind of wants you to like put his down, and he points on his map and he says, "These are all mines. They're under the control right now currently the Flaming Fist. They've been gaining presence in this region as of late." And he points to the three, kind of on the northwestern side, just west of Port Nyanzaru, the three shovel and pick icons on the map. And then he says, and then you have the River Shosen Star here that heads down towards Camp Righteous. And the River Tiryiki. That one heads down straight into undead territory. Very dangerous at the end of that river. If you head over to Kitcher's Inlet along the eastern edge of the coastline, you'll find Port Castellangar, and you'll find Mesro as well. Mesro's the front line against the undead. And then he points to the far edge of the wild coast, all the way at the southwestern end of the island. And he says, 3 years ago when I came here, I set out with my expedition to this end of the island. I saw some terrible things.
What did you find there, exactly?
Well, there's an old legend among my clan about a place called the Wormheart Mine. We went there, and we never found that mine. But what we did find were big beasts and horrible undead creatures. We waded through the jungles for weeks, doing whatever we could to stay alive. If you ask me, whatever this soulmonger is, I believe it's down here. And he taps on his map, down at the edges of the Isles, near the peaks of flame. That's my bet. That's where the undead's heaviest.
So this is out of character just to you guys, but this guy has said undead 7 times now, and that's sort of a cause for concern for me. So is that the areas with like the skulls and crossbones, or where the undead are?
He says, yeah, so he says, he points at a couple of the little spots on the map that Sindra gave you, and he where the skull and crossbones are, and he says, "Aye, these are pockets of the undead. As far as I can tell from the information I gathered since I've been here, it's the undead that's
weird.
What's pushed the royal families out of the jungles and into the ports and the coastlines."
Where did these royal families originally live?
They, as far as I know, lived all throughout the jungles of Cholt. It used to be much more of a prosperous place, much more of a peaceful place. Although damned hot, if you ask me. But over time, whatever this curse that everyone's talking about is, whatever this soulmonger is, I think it's been bubbling over time, and now it's brewing at the surface. And over this time, the undead and everything else on this island have become more and more cursed. It's what's pushed everyone out of the jungles.
Do you happen to know where all these royal families live now?
For the most part, they don't exist anymore. I've heard that one is left, hanging on to their ancestry, hoping for the day that the royal families return to hold sway over the Isles. But for the most part, they've been reduced to what they call the merchant princes of the port. And he does like little air quotes when he says merchant princes, and he says they hold all the power now. The royal families are all but gone. It's just the merchant princes that hold sway over the trade in the Port Nyanzaru here.
So,
Oh.
what do you charge as a guide?
He says, I charge 5 gold per day, and I have a 30 gold upfront fee. And that's because anyone that does business here in Port Nyanzaru has to pay tithe to the merchant princes, or else they'll take care of you in one way or another, if you know what I mean. Nothing happens in the port without the permission of the merchant princes.
So, just out of character, this guy seems like he is really knowledgeable about the island, but he is also the first guide that we've. So, maybe we should. Maybe we should meet with Azaka, I think her name was, and then sort of try to decide from there. But this guy seems like he knows a lot about the island.
Are you out of character right now?
Speaking of funny voice when I'm in character. Her voice.
Let's do this in character.
Okay. Well, Ayan wouldn't say any of that in front of Hugh, so he sort of just nods and agrees.
Seems like you want a sidebar. Do you want a sidebar? I heard that.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, Ayan
Hugh kind of
just says.
Hugh kind of says, he says, you know, you seem like a reasonable group. It helps you that you got your friend Garn here. You know, we dwarves, we always feel kind of a kinship to our brethren, no matter where we come from. I can see that you want to talk amongst yourselves. That's fine. At least you're more polite than that bitch over there. And he just goes, kind of takes his drink and you know, does like a little air cheers to you guys, and he goes back and sits over at his seat with his map.
No,
I think we should, you know, I'm not really thinking with the guide so much, but we should try and meet up with all these merchant families and see if we can stack our rewards. They probably all want the spell, the curse, to be lifted, so why only get one reward when we can get 9 or 8 or whatever?
I knew there was a reason I liked you, Ratman.
Why, thank you, small guy.
Yeah, but who's to say that, you know, the curse won't start working on living folks that haven't been raised? I mean, you know how long it's going to take you to go talk to all these princes and do all that?
Maybe like 4 levels worth of time.
That's funny.
I mean, I don't mind trying to hit 1 or 2, but if we try to hit all 9, that's going to take some time.
The place to start would be with Sindra's friend, Wakanga.
Aye.
We know where he lives, and it is only a short walk from here.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah, I feel like we might as well do it. It's not like we're in a huge rush, you know.
I agree.
A birdie told me we shouldn't be too hasty on this. I got a lot of connections with the actual rats in this area, you know.
Out of character, my character's thinking, "Damn, I'm in with a bunch of rogues."
That you are.
Which you are one of, yes. So I'll through the course of the adventure, you guys are probably going to get a lot of handouts. So I just made a folder that I'm going to dump them all into every time you get one. If you guys want to reference ever, just under the party loot, I've made a player handouts folder. So everything that I give you guys, I'll pop into there.
That's good. Well, Do you think there are any other guides that we could speak to now before we go elsewhere? He's up and he just looks around and he says, "Is anyone else a jungle guide?"
Oh shit, that's good. Okay, yeah. Let me see. Let's see. We'll just roll. We'll roll for. We'll roll for this. If I'll roll a
It's
d20.
just
If it's a 10 or over, there'll be a guide. There'll be another guide in the bar. All right. So everybody the guy playing his stringed instrument. Like you hear like a as you like shout out, and it's like the whole bar stops and like turns and looks at you, and there's like an uncomfortable silence for a minute. And then like the tiefling Joy, she begins to like chime her finger cymbals again, and the musician starts up, and everyone goes back to drinking, and then Hugh walks over and he says, "Well, I take it you're not interested in my offer then."
Oh no, we just want to keep our options open.
Right now, we want to look at our other options. We won't say we won't take you, but we need to look at others.
He says, I understand. Go ahead and waste your time with some of the other guys that are offering their services in the town, but you won't find a more honest dwarf in all of the port and all of this isle.
Can I do an insight check off of that? That's the first time I didn't believe him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. You do now. When he says that, you get the impression that he does have some ulterior motive.
Okay.
He wasn't lying about his knowledge of the island. He wasn't even lying about how much of it he's personally explored. But there is something that he's not telling you.
So when he walks away, I'll look at the group and go, "He's hiding something."
Move, Scott.
We're all hiding something.
You can't hide anything in that fur.
Oh, you'd be surprised what I have.
Uh-huh. I can hide a lot in this beard, including you.
Yeah, I'd like to see it tried. Smelly.
Look who's talking, you stinking rat. And I'm saying this all with a smile. Not really.
I've already walked away. I'm ignoring it.
Just going. Everybody
I'm
else.
looking for a game of dice right now.
Oh yeah. You can find people to gamble with you in the bar. Absolutely.
That's pretty much what I've been doing the whole time when I'm not sitting.
You do notice there is a table in the two tables in the corner actually. One of them, there's a group of men that are basically rolling bones carved into dice. And there's one next to them, and there's a group of men who are dealing a game of cards of some sort as well.
I have dice as well, so.
Yeah, for sure. Are your dice like weighted in any way? Are they like trick dice?
They're just the ones that come with my background.
Yeah,
So
but
they
you could
come-
I'm asking, like, is that something your character would have done? Like, would he have made his dice like weighted dice, or like?
Yeah, he probably would, because
Sure.
he's a
So you
rat.
want to try and go gamble with the dicers?
Yes.
All right. They all just kind of stop and like look at you for a minute when you play. They all look like they're like natives. They all look like they have a set of 3 dice. They each have a set of like 3 little dice, and they all roll them at once. And what you gather from watching them for a few rounds is they roll the dice. They place their bets. They roll the dice, and then the person who basically makes the highest. It's a very simple game. The person who makes the highest roll with their dice wins the pot. They all kind of like stop momentarily, and one of them after a few seconds speaks up and he goes, "Well, you want to play rat or what?"
You know I want to play. You ready to lose some money, rat?
You saw like a goblin merchant basically in the bazaar you passed by earlier, and none of these locals seem to think that's very strange that a talking rat's just kind of walked up to them and tried to start gambling with them.
Hey, hold on.
And they all like.
Hold on, sorry. Come back to me. I gotta do some work.
Okay, yeah, no worries. So did anyone else have anything left they wanted to do in the inn, or were you guys gonna try and go see if you could find Syndra and Wakanga, her friend, and talk to one of these merchant princes?
I want to tell that serving girl, or I'm sorry, our server, our hostess.
Yeah, actually, give me a sec here, and maybe I'll try and give her a name real quick. I know that it's
Hey, have any of y'all seen Thor yet?
Thor.
Nope.
The new one.
Yeah.
I heard it was kind of like it was kind of Guardians of the Galaxy humor. They went more a humor route than like a
serious role.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah. So the serving mistress who was telling you about her friend, who was one of these jungle guides, her name is Lasha, Lasha.
I introduce myself to her and I just ask her if she can set up a meeting with Azaka as soon as possible so that we can just sort of gauge her skills as a guide.
Yeah, she says, of course, when I'm off today, I will see if she is in the city. When she is here, she lives in she has a small home in Old City. But of course, you wouldn't know what that is, since you are new.
Okay, well, we plan
Go ahead.
to stay either here or at the House of Repose. So,
She
you could just...
she says, I tell you what, tonight I will see if Azaka is here in town, and if she is, come see me here tomorrow at midday, and if Azaka is in town, she will be here waiting for you. Hello?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Our plan was to go and see Wakanga.
Yeah, you guys can go see Wakanga at Syndra, where Syndra has said she is staying.
Technically, we're closer to the other inn, right? So we could go and check out any guides that are there too.
Yeah, the other inn is basically just like kitty corner, straight across from the Thundering Lizard. I think it was called Kaya's Gentle Repose or something like that.
My vote would be to go over there since it's closer. See?
Sure.
gets up and he leaves a few gold pieces. Drinks cost and chult. That was pretty good service. And across the street to Kaya's house of repose.
Sure. So you guys leave Wuce behind to his gambling. Does everyone go, or does somebody? Does anyone stay?
Well, before we go, I would like to sort of just swing around the corner to face Faye here, and just kind of, make sure I have her attention. I don't know, sing a little song.
Yeah. So they, Joy's still performing on the stage, so there's an empty seat there at their table.
Okay, I don't think I want to sit down. I just want to. I'll leave her with a little bit of I don't know, like I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess, when did you last let your heart decide?
Yeah, go ahead and make a charisma check with advantage.
All right. After that, I'll just wink and just go after Ayan. Let's just see. Charisma. There we go. Oh, 19.
Yeah, and she's kind of like, unbelievable sights, indescribable feelings.
There we go. Nice.
And she says, we should have a talk sometime, darling. Not now, but come see me again here.
Oh, I will. Just take care of yourself in the meantime. I'll follow along.
Nice.
And as he walks out, the golf clap.
You still have your inspiration, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you would have gotten one.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're shot, man.
That means it's all Disney songs from now on. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all right, man. I definitely am. I'm expecting some Jungle Book for sure.
I'm the king of the swingers, yeah. The Jungle VIP.
Yeah. And so you guys go head back towards the villas of the merchant princes, yeah?
Yep.
Gotta have too much shit pulled up here now. Okay.
To the other inn, right? Kaya's house.
right.
Oh yeah,
repose.
no. Oh yeah. I'll cross to the other end. Yeah. So actually, this building is colorfully painted as well. As you exit the Thundering Lizard and you look across the way past the Bloody Butchers. This one's just kind of painted like with a peaceful night sky. Like the front of the building's painted a deep kind of purplish blue, and there's like a starry sky kind of painted scattered across the front with a little kind of half crescent moon over the doorway. And when you guys come in, this isn't so much as a tavern like the Thundering Lizard. They have in rooms, but it's predominantly like a tavern space for the most part, and the rooms are kind of on the upper level where the top portion was kind of bambooed. That's kind of where the rooms were. This building's built much the same. The bottom level, like many of the buildings here in Port Nyanzaru, the bottom level is kind of this stucco material, except for all the city walls, which are made of like solid stone. And then the upper, anything that's got a second or third story tends to be made of bamboo. And so as you come into the lower level, it's not so much of an inn as it is like more of like a simple common room. There's like a big, despite it being like a hot climate, there is like a big hearth on one end of the one end of the building on this bottom floor here, with a large kind of table that's maybe 2 or 3 feet off the ground, that has several like high-backed, comfortable looking chairs that are kind of placed around it. The hearth itself is not currently going, but on the table there's like a kind of like a brass little adornment that's got like smoke billowing out of it, that you can only assume is like incense, because as soon as you come in is like your nostrils are kind of scented with this heavy, or assaulted with this heavy perfume smell. There's like a very slight woman that's kind of manning the counter, that gives you a gentle smile as you all enter. She's um, she's probably about 5 feet tall. She's got kind of a short tuft of dark hair, and she's got like this um, light brown skin, um, and she's dressed in these, very light garbs. Hers aren't quite so revealing as some of like the serving girls in the other place. She's more modestly dressed, but still very colorful. She's got kind of like a intricately woven um, uh, um, kind of hat on her head, and she just kind of gives you guys a warm smile as you enter. There are a few people kind of sitting around in the common space. One woman you notice in particular um, is also kind of light skin, but she looks more foreign. She kind of has like more of like a Japanese kind of look to her. She's kind of got more fair skin. She's not so darkened by like the jungle climate here. She's got kind of more of a long, silky black hair. Um, she has a dark black robe on that's got this brown trim along the top top part of it, and she has like um, her neck and kind of around her eyes and forehead have this brass kind of paint that's been kind of um, drawn in these intricate designs. She's got like they look around her neck. They look like almost like two brass necklaces, but they've been kind of painted onto her neck. And then around her eyes, they kind of spiral and flare out around to the backs of her temple. Um, and She's sitting there near the hearth, and she's got kind of a book open in her lap, and she just seems to be reading. If anyone in here was one of the jungle guides, it looks like it'd probably be this person.
Okay. Ayan is gonna walk right up to her, sort of like he did to Faye, and just tap her on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I am looking for some help. Um, we are planning an expedition, and I'm looking for someone who can guide us."
She kind of looks up from her book and closes it and sets it down on the table in front of her. And she says, "Oh, well, my friend, you have a good eye. Let me introduce myself. My name is Salida. I indeed have led many expeditions through the wilds of Chult."
Good. I was wondering if you would be familiar with the current goings on in the jungle, and with an artifact called the Soulmonger.
She says, "I have heard the whispers of the curse and this device that everyone speaks of called the Soulmonger, yes?"
Wouldn't happen to know where, or have a guess, I suppose, as to where it might be.
She says, "I have my own theories and suspicions, yes, but what you should be more concerned about is whether or not I could guide you there and keep you alive." She says, Have you met any more of the jungle guides offering their services in the city so far?
A dwarf.
She kind of laughs out loud. She says, Old Hugh, he suffers from mad monkey fever, I'm sure of it.
This is not a disease with which I am familiar.
It turns your brain to mush. She says, I know all of the guides in this town, and I know that I can offer much more than any of them can. I know the secret trails that appear on no map in the jungles. If you are to hire a guide, you should hire me, and hire others at your own peril. I can get you through the jungles of Cholt, where no monster or undead will bother us. I know the secret ways.
She's making some big claims here. Can I get a sense of it? She's, just bullshitting.
Yeah, sure.
Same thing for me.
Make it an insight check.
Nope. 11. Oh, yes.
We've got our lie detector here.
Yeah. He was crushing it.
Yeah, so, even though she's kind of sitting down and she's wearing kind of a frumpy robe, you do notice that she does look very fit, and she looks completely, she looks like completely the part of a seasoned explorer. You do notice, Garn, I think when she sets her book down, the sleeve of her robe kind of comes up a little bit, and you notice a bit of scale gets exposed, like the skin of her forearm is kind of scaly. You gather that what she's saying is true. Hey, knock it off. Stop barking. Sorry. You gather that what she's saying is true, that she probably does know a lot of the secret ways throughout the jungles, but you also gather that that there's something about her that's not what she looks to be. She's not lying to you about knowing the jungles well, but she's something different than what she's posing to be.
I reach down and, casually, and not trying to attack or anything, but move up the arm or the robe to show the scales off.
Yeah, she kind of pulls her arm away from you, and she goes, "How dare you touch a lady in such a manner? You know what? I don't want any of your business anyways. Off with you."
Well, I'm not sure if you're much of a lady. You got scales instead of skin.
Oh, shit. I'll step in between these two, trying to calm him down. Just, I'm sorry. We've had a long day. Just please forgive my friend.
She said, she kind of looks up at your golden eyes, and she regains her composure a little bit. She did look like she was about to go off on a tangent, and she says, I can tell that you're all new here to Port Nyanzaru. She says, you're going to have many offers to lead you into the jungles. Some of the guides might be able to keep you alive. Some of them might even have good knowledge of the jungles. But I'm the only one that can keep us entirely hidden from prying eyes and vicious beasts. If you reconsider, and you keep your hands to yourselves, you can find me here. If I don't accept somebody else's offer, that is.
That sounds fair. Thank you.
Ayan, can I chat with you a bit over here?
Yes, certainly.
I don't know about you, but I trust a guide with at least 2 arms more than the. So I vote for this one.
So, Ayan begins speaking with Riceak in Thieves' Camp,
Right.
just so that we're not overheard by anyone. And he says, "You know, I quite agree. I have some misgivings about both of the guides which we have met so far. Um, a journey with someone, it's important to be able to trust them, I think. And the lady with extreme plaque psoriasis did not
Plaques
did
of
not
what?
plaque plaque psoriasis. I agree that for some reason I would choose her over Hugh. I think that we should keep searching.
As you like.
I do very much get a good feeling about the guide which was suggested to us by the bar girl, and we can meet with her tomorrow. Take off before then. We can also see if Wakanga or Sindra have any recommendations.
Yeah, I know that the rat wants to go up to visit the merchant prince as well, so that would be a good plan to go.
Yeah, did Wuce come back from his work?
Yes.
So roll roll 3d6 twice for me as you start gambling with these this group of gentlemen in the Thundering Lizard.
Oh boy.
And so there's 3 other men at the table who have been gambling with dice, and what they wager for the first round of betting is 5 gold each. And one of them rolls his dice, and with kind of a gnarled grin, he grins up at everyone else and kind of pulls the pile of gold into his into in front of him, and he goes, anyone want to bet double or nothing this time? And he tosses 10 gold in. I'm feeling lucky today. Hey,
Am I using my weighted dice?
yeah, that's why I had you roll twice.
Gotcha. So he's addressing the table now, you're saying?
Yeah, he's talking to everyone. The other 2 there, one of them stands up and he goes, I am out. I have lost enough money to you fools today. And he like picks his dice up and he walks out, and the other one tosses his 10 gold and he says, oh, I'm in another round for sure. What about you, rat man?
Yeah, let's do it.
So take 5 gold from your purse, and roll your dice twice again. And the other 2, oh wait, a 9 and a 13. And so the same guy who initially won the last round, he goes, a tie. So, in this game, we settle a tie of two ways. We roll again, or we can increase the bet and make it more interesting.
Or
How
we
much
fight to the
more
death.
interesting? How much more interesting are we talking here?
He says, he picks up his coin purse off his belt and he dumps it out onto the table, and there's probably about 3 platinum there, and 20 gold, and he so that's a total of 50 gold, and he nods over to the one-armed dwarf at the table, or sitting at the bar, and he says, I know that that man has a map that many people in this town would pay good money for. If you can steal it from him, I'll give you all this gold. Or we can just roll the dice again.
Wait, so we're not even talking about the tie anymore?
He's saying you can roll the dice for basically double the original amount, so 20 gold, or he'll give you all the rest of his gold if you'll steal the map off the dwarf and give it to him. And you had seen where the dwarf put the map in his pack.
Yeah. Let's do one more round of dice, and then I'll give me time to think about your proposition.
Okay, roll your dice twice again. Ooh, nice. He's gonna make an insight check. But make a sleight of hand check for me. Nice. So you get your 20 gold back, the 10 gold from the guy who didn't tie, and then 20 of this guy's gold who was asking you to try and steal the map. And the 3 platinum are there still on the table, and he taps them and he says, "My offer still stands."
How much are you giving me again?
3 platinum, which is 30 gold.
Seems like the rate just went down.
He kind of lets out a little sigh, and he takes off his boot, and he kind of like shakes it, and a small red ruby drops out into his hand, and he says, "Fine, this is well."
What's so important about that map?
I know that dwarf has been out into the jungles more than most on this isle. That map is worth much to many people in this city.
Wait, say that last part again?
His map is worth much to many people in this city.
Like who?
That is for me to know.
How about if I do this, I get to come along and when you sell the map?
He says, "You drive a hard bargain, Rat, but it's a deal."
Okay, give me a second. Let me do that. I want the platinum now, though. Then the ruby upon delivery.
He slides the platinum over to you, and he says, "You can have the platinum. If you want the meeting If you want to come with me to sell the map, I keep the ruby.
See, now it sounds like the price just went down again.
Oh, we will get much more than this, whatever this ruby is worth when we go sell this map.
Okay. I swiped the platinum. Is it how well lit is this area?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly well lit. You know, there's light shining in, um, from the outside. Um, it's not, you know, like pitch black or anything. Some of the tabletops have candles on them, and you know, it's the middle of the daytime, so it's fairly well lit.
Okay, I'm gonna just kind of hang out until it gets darker so I can do some hiding and shadow stuff.
Okay. So after about an hour or so, the dwarf gets up, slings his pack on his back, um, and begins to like make for the exit of the bar. During that hour, the guy who you made this deal with has been like pestering you, like, "What are you waiting for, rat? Go!" And then finally, the dwarf stands up and begins to try and leave.
What's that guy's name?
The dwarf,
No, the guy pestering me.
Roz.
Perfection takes time, Roz. Chill the fuck out.
And the dwarf just starts making for the front door of the Thundering Lizard.
Alright, I'll try and tail him.
Okay, yeah, sure. You can make a. It's fair. I mean, it's fairly easy to tail him. Do you try and do it so he doesn't notice that you're tailing him?
Yes.
Okay, make a stealth check for me then. And so he starts making his way towards the Colosseum. He goes up through an alleyway, and as he's making his way up the stairs towards one of the stairways towards the Colosseum, you see him kind of disappear a little bit in the taller people of the crowd. You can make a perception check to see if you can keep an eye on him. Yeah, and you manage to like get up a little closer, and he kind of falls in line with the crowd going up into the Colosseum, and you can hear like cheering and the clashing of swords, and and you see him kind of fall in up, and he takes a seat. He kind of goes up, and the Coliseum kind of goes in, and then you know it's kind of like going into a stadium where then there's ramps that kind of wrap around and go up higher and higher into the different levels of the seating. And he goes up about 2 levels, and then he goes and finds a seat kind of off on his own, and you see down now that he's uh, uh, there's two men kind of fighting in the arena. Uh, um, they're both kind of wearing studded leather armor and leather kilts. They're both fighting with short metal swords, and they have these large round shields that are kind of they're draped or they look like they're made out of like scale or some sort of lizard-like skin, and as the dwarf sits down, one of the men fighting in the arena knocks the other one down with his shield, and the crowd cheers in the arena. And you hear like a kind of a voice echo out throughout the stadium. And the voice kind of like just yell, like announces out through the stadium, and we have a new qualifier for the next round. And the two gladiators get up. The one that knocked the other guy down actually helps the other guy up, and they go off into a kind of a dark doorway in the bottom floor of the Colosseum. A ration from his pack or something, and he starts to eat it as he's like waiting for the next gladiatorial bout to start. It seems like there's some sort of series of qualifying matches going on in the arena right now for perhaps some event that's coming up in the next day or so, few days.
Hey, are we gonna keep going for a while, or?
I'd say after the rat attempts to steal this map, we'll probably end the session for this week.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you try and sneak up on Hugh and steal his map?
Yeah, while I'm waiting for the right time to do it, I write a little note saying, "I owe you your map."
Nice.
My plan is to swap out. I'm making it so it's kind of the same size as his map, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna, swap it out.
Yeah, it's in the back pouch on his pack. So, there are people around, but he's kind of picked up an open section where he can kind of be on his own. You can make a stealth check for me. And how do you like approach him?
Well, I was gonna do the whole pickpocket thing where
Yeah,
they
just kind of
jack-
walk past and do a sleight of hand. He's kind of set his pouch down next to him on the bench beside him, the stone bench beside him.
Yeah, and then as a backup, if I get noticed, I'm gonna do the whole bump thing.
Okay,
and
yeah.
then I'll role play out what I say during the bump. So
Sure.
if
So
it has to come to that.
yeah. So as you kind of like, you walk past behind him like you're just going to go find a seat or something. Go ahead and make a sleight of hand roll. Yeah. So you walk past and you slip your fingers into the back of his pouch with your note rolled up, and you pull out the scroll of his map and swap places. You kind of bump his bag a little bit, but he just doesn't. He kind of like looks up at you just as you kind of make the swap, and he's like, "Hey, watch where you're going," and you just keep walking, and he goes back to eating his rations. And I think that's a good place to end this session. Nice. Welcome to Port 9, Zaru.
Thank you.
So what I call that? Just what's the guy's name again?
Hugh. Hugh's map. Hugh's
Like
map
Hugh
of,
Hefner?
Yeah. Hugh Hackingstone's map of Cholt.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You want to hand out any experience here, Ryan?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Where'd my calculator go? 100 experience each for the finishing out the cellars, and then also 750 experience each for the getting the 100 is for the monster, the swarm basically, and then 750 experience each for getting the phylactery, negotiating with Zaldara, getting to Cholt, and roleplay. So 850 each total. Which might get you pretty close to level 3. I'm not sure. Level 2 for sure.
My count has 967.
Oh yeah, so level 3 is 900, right?
Yep.
Yep. So level 3.
Oh shit.
All right, good news, guys.
So you guys can do your level ups on your own. You can roll. You can either roll for HP or you can just take them, average. That's up to you.
I don't have the luck to roll, I think. It's always bad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end up with like 20 hit points at level 15.
Yeah. So yeah, awesome. That was a great first session. I'm still not as familiar with the module as I'd like to be, but I'm gonna keep working on that so I really know the ins and out of the story and the stuff as we progress. But well done. I hope everyone enjoyed the game so far. Session 1, I'll probably end up editing the video a bit and also uploading it to YouTube. Episode 1 of Tomb of Annihilation. This one was called Liches Get Stitches.